Do you have problems with moving your shoulders, or your shoulder blades more specifically, through full protraction to full retraction? We should have this full range of motion in our shoulders, but so many people are hunched over their desk or looking at their phones all day that we're beginning to lose this function in our shoulders. But you know what? You can get it back. My name is John Clark. I'm certified by the Egoscue Institute to perform postural therapy. You're watching the Posture Pain Connection. We're all about fixing pain and mobility through improving posture. Today we're talking about wall elbow curls. Now that's a tough one to say. I had to do another take because I was twisting my tongue up so much, but this time I'm getting it right, I think. And you know what? I'm not just going to be covering wall elbow curls. I'm going to be covering just some of the modifications that you can do to this exercise if you're having trouble in the standard wall elbow curl position. So you're going to want to be sure to stick around to the end of the video to see all the different modifications I'm covering. There's even way more beyond that, so many positions you can do this exercise in, but I'm going to cover the three main ones that I think are going to be most helpful for most people. So let's get into those instructions. So let's check out the first position that I'm going to be covering today for elbow curls. These are wall elbow curls. As it implies, I'm going to be standing against the wall. Before I go back there, I want to show you a quick thing here. We're using the golfer's grip here. This is called, in postural therapy, we call it the golfer's grip. Now, you can see I've got my thumbs bent at 90 degrees, or as far as they can bend out, and I've got my fingers bent at all the outside knuckles, but I've not got them bent here. I'm keeping it tight, actively tight. You can even see the curve there, right, along the back of the hand. So this is a when you're in the throes of doing exercises, you got to pay attention, make sure that you don't, especially this one, you got to make sure that these first knuckles don't bend. We want to keep these fingers pulled back the entire time. That is so crucial because we're going to be getting into this motion here. And what I see most often, I think I'm going to try to bend down maybe so you can see it better. I see people starting here and just bending the fingers to do this motion. But no, I don't want that. I want these completely pulled back the entire time, okay? So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to place my heels as close to the wall as I can get them. If you've got a big butt like me, you might have to keep them an inch or so away to keep from falling forward. But if you are, a more normal sized person, you might be able to get the heels against the wall. Now from here, I'm going to make sure that I've got my hips against the wall. I've got my shoulders against the wall, and I've got my big toes angled in at about 5 to 10 degrees with the ankles hip-width apart. So I've got all my load-bearing joints in vertical alignment. Now, if you can't get into this position, skip forward to the next chapter because that's where I'm going to be talking about another position that might help. If that one doesn't help, then you're going to go to the third try. And between those three exercises, we're going to get a lot of people covered about how to do this exercise properly. So from here, I'm going to go into that golfer's grip. I'm going to place this outside facing knuckles along my head, right at the temple, kind of right between the ear and the temple is where I like to do it. Now I'm going to go forward and backward. That's the motion right there. But just pay super careful attention. You should feel your head rolling over this bent knuckle going towards your fingernails. If you don't feel that bending or rolling over, if you don't feel that knuckle rolling over your head, you are going to be, that means you're bending, you're balling up your fists when you're going. We are not doing that. We are keeping this golfer's grip the whole time. And it's going to be simple. Most times, most venues are going to recommend 2 sets of 10. You can do up to 3 sets of 10 if you really like the motion. And that's it for the wall elbow curls. Let's get into the next one, which is going to be wall drop elbow curls. And I'm going to show you what equipment you need for that. So this here is a slant board. You can see you stand on this portion, you put this side against the wall, and it's got several different levels where you can, and this one does at least, have several different levels where you can stand to increase the angle of this board. Now, why would I be doing this one instead of just wall drop? Well, this would be a great one to do if you've got rotational disparities in the femurs especially, or in the ankles. If one foot points kind of straight ahead, the other one points out to the side, or if both are pointing out, both pointing in, one pointing out, whatever it is, This, or you could also do that with your femurs. You can see that in the kneecaps, if the kneecaps are pointing out or pointing in. That would be a great time to do this. Also, if you can't get both your shoulders or both your hips against the wall, this might help. Now, if this doesn't help get both your hips or shoulders against the wall, you're going to skip to the next chapter where we're going to do this in the flexion abdominal position. But check this out first, or if you have a slant board, give this a try. We're just going to set this up next to the wall. We're going to stand on it. Again, I want the big toes angled in 5 to 10 degrees, ankles right around hip width apart, and it's the same motion. We maintain that golfer's grip. Put the flat knuckles against the head, between the femurs and between the temples and the ears. And then we are just making sure we feel that knuckle roll over the head so that we're not bending balling up those fists. No balling of the fists, no matter what. And we're just going to do 2 sets of 10 here. And this is, again, going to help when you have rotational disparities in the lower body, or even pelvic disparities, pelvic tilt, or not pelvic tilt, like one side of the pelvis dropped, or elevated pelvis, things like that. And that would be why you would do the wall drop. Just standing in that position is called wall drop. And that would be wall drop elbow curls. Now, what if you don't have a slant board, or what if you still can't get both your shoulders or both your hips against the wall? Let's check out how to do the flexion abdominal elbow curls. So, flexion abdominal elbow curls. First, let's get into what flexion abdominal is. Flexion abdominal is a position where, I better move this night light. Yeah, you can see me on the monitor from there. So, if you've watched some of my other exercise videos, I've done a few where I've got my knees directly over my hips. So hips at 90 degrees, knees at 90 degrees. With flexion abdominals, we are obviously going to bring those abdominals muscles into flexion, which means we're going to scoot our butt closer to the wall. Depending on your height, or in some cases like me, your belly size, this is going to be a different amount. Smaller people might be able to do 5 to 6 inches. Taller people might need to go more like 6 to 8 inches, something like that. But what we really want to see is the knees or the hips bent more than 90 degrees. So the knees are getting tucked up to the chest to some degree here. As you can see, if I were to draw a line straight up, my knees would be about right here. If my hips are at 90 degrees, I've got them tucked up towards my chest. I've got my feet angled in just slightly, hip width apart. So I'm going to do the elbow curls here, because I think that'll provide a better view of the actual elbow curls. But just make sure you're in that flexion abdominal position. So from here, I'm going to make sure I keep my ankles, my knees, and my hips in this vertical alignment, meaning I'm not letting my knees droop out or pushing them together. They're staying right here. Now, I'm going to do the same thing as before. I'm going to utilize that golfer's grip. I'm going to put this outside edge of my knuckles, this outside or side of my knuckles towards the head, between the temples and the ear. I'm going to let the elbows rest against the floor, and from here, I'm going to hinge my shoulders back and forth. Again, we are not letting these fists ball up. You just got to be super mindful of keeping this tight edge, or tight tension along the back side of the hand and forehand, or forearm rather. Boom, just like that. And we're doing flexion abdominal wall or elbow curls. And this is going to help reduce those compensations or dysfunctions that are making it hard for you to get your shoulders against the wall or your both hips against the wall. And that is all I've got today about elbow curls.